Welcome to WhiskeyWatchersWheel.com, the #1 podcast in Bangor, Maine. With I'm the phenomenal Matt Green, and with me and the boys tonight, we're going to give you a great podcast. If you notice, we're one man down. Boys, introduce yourselves.
Casey.
James.
Kevin is feeling a bit under the weather this evening. Had some prior obligations, so we are going to go a man down tonight. Fellas, how are we doing tonight?
Exhausted still.
Listen, I am worn out. I have a phenomenal job. I love my job. I love my company. Spend time in Dallas. That's where our corporate office is, here and there. And I have to rant a bit. So living in Orlando, Florida, I've come to the realization, and I get it. When I have to fly, you're going to go through and encounter the creme de la creme of human society. We have we're a tourist mecca. We're a tourist destination. There's a lot of people coming and going. So whether I'm flying in to home or flying out to somewhere else, there's always a bunch of kids and everything on the plane. I'm a dad. I get that. I'm fine with it. First rant: people wear clothes when you fly. I mean, I am so tired of people showing up in pajamas and shower socks or shower shoes, and it's ridiculous, right? But anyway, I digress. That's another topic. But wear some clothes.
I think it's a good topic, though, because
it is a good topic.
When I was traveling last week, I also was shocked by some clothing I saw that this young lady, she had to be, I don't know, early 20s. Not the fittest of person, but all she had on was yoga pants and a sports bra. And that's it.
Awesome.
Well, there you go.
Awesome.
Well,
we all have these stories, right?
Well, we do.
Essentially, you've seen that. The account of people of Walmart. Well, it's Walmart in the air. It really is.
It has
100%.
literally become the people of Walmart. So I have the same routine. I typically, because of where I'm going, I'm usually on Southwest. And if anyone's ever flown Southwest before, you don't have a designated seat.
Wait, did your company buy your plane ticket?
Yeah.
And you still fly Southwest?
We have to. I mean, we're hooked up with a travel agency. So when I'm going through and I'm booking hotels or cars or thing, we have an app that we go on, and it's basically a travel agency. So it hooks you up to whatever the most economical is. And so where we're going is usually,
that's lame.
And I get it. Delta, I like flying Delta, but Delta's is always $300 to $400 a ticket more expensive.
Matt,
and
you love your company, Casey, and I don't.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I do love my company because they've been good to me over the years.
I'm kidding.
I know. So but anyone ever flying Southwest, you don't have a assigned seat. You have a number and you're in a queue, and you get on the plane. And so I have the same routine. I always have my earbuds in. I'm chilling to some music, because if not, I'm going to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. And so I go and I get on the plane. I try to usually get, I'm a bigger guy, so I always try to get a window seat because you have a little more room over there. And so I'm sitting there and I'm chilling. I'm towards the back, and I see her coming. Here she comes. Big mama, got her Buc-ee's t-shirt on, her shower shoes, with 4 kids. All right, got her big bag, and she's coming down the aisle,
smacking everybody in the head.
And everybody in the head.
Yeah,
exactly
and
right.
I immediately looked to my left and realized that there's nobody next to me, nor is there anybody across the way. And I said, "Fuck!" And sure as shit, she stops. Friggin' her and 2 of the kids go there, and the other 2 kids sit next to me, and I'm talking, they are literally, 6, 5, 4, 3. So I got like the 3-year-old next to me, and the other one, and the other 2 kids are next to her, and I don't think much of it. I mean, literally, I got my earbuds in. I have the Apple AirPod Pros. They're noise canceling, so you can't hear shit. So I got some chilling, some jazz going. And so I, immediately.
Kenny G.
Yeah,
Kenny
exactly.
G in the air.
A little bit of Enya, baby. A little
at
Enya.
40,000 feet.
Yeah, man. Got some Enya going. Sail away, sail away, sail away. So sitting there, and I fall asleep. Wake up, I don't know, 20 minutes later, we're in the air. And I look over, and the kids are being good. I mean, one kid's next to me coloring and everything, and then I kind of look over to Big Mama, and she's already rustling around in her bag, right? And I'm like, what is she doing? God bless her. This bitch pulls out an entire bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. She had an entire bucket. Where she got a bucket of chicken? I mean, there must be in the Orlando airport somewhere. There must be a Kentucky Fried Chicken. She had an entire bucket of chicken. And I said, what the fuck? And then, of course, there's no plates. So she started putting napkins on the folding tables for the kids. And she's passing out fucking chicken legs and shit, right? Then she pulls out the sides. She's got coleslaw. She's got mashed potatoes, grapes. She got all this shit, right? And she had the little tiny cups. So each kid had their own individual servings, right? And I'm looking over at this debacle. And then this little kid, he's like 3 years old next to me, man. He's getting fucking mashed potatoes all over the tray. He's getting on my jeans. He's getting them everywhere, chicken legs and everything. So this goes on for, 20 minutes. How the flight attendant didn't stop it, I have no clue. But they have this rule now where you can bring fuck anything you want on the plane to eat. They don't they don't care. Back in the day you got a meal or whatever, and now they don't care. So
now you get nothing but misery. No meal, just misery.
The creme, the thing that topped off the entire experience was when they were done. To be honest with you, I don't even know what the fuck they did with the bones. I didn't see where they went. But the table. The folding tray had fucking mashed potatoes and gravy all over the place, right? Just everywhere, right? Yeah. This little fucker just goes whoop and closes it and clips closed. So I feel bad for whenever they clean that plane, man, because there's going to be potatoes and shit just dripping down. I mean, I don't understand what people are thinking these days.
I agree. The same flight I'm talking about, a dude brought a whole pizza. I mean, at least that's a little bit more confined, but I mean, a whole friggin' pizza. Come on.
Dude, I was up until this experience, I thought, so I was on a flight one time going to Seattle, and a guy had whipped out like a sub, and I'm thinking, okay, well, then he whipped out a container of hummus and starts dipping the sub in the hummus, and he's slapping hummus everywhere. And I truly thought that was that was it, man. It couldn't get any worse than that until Big Mama pulls out the chicken. And then
Now that you guys have told us your flying food stories and dinner stories. So I was sitting in the terminal waiting for a flight, and the woman across from me literally took her shoes off and started clipping her toenails.
Oh, Jesus.
And I looked up at her and she thought nothing of it. I said, are you fucking kidding me? And she looked at me like, what? And I just grabbed my shit and moved to another section. It's just like, wow. Just what have we become?
Right. I mean, anyway, listen,
I don't want to sound like a bunch of old men just bitching about flying, but
here's the thing.
It is certainly not the experience that you hear about from your parents back in the day.
I'm sure someone listening to this is going to be like, oh my God, listen to these old fuckers, complaining about
boomers.com.
Right. But at some point, dude, enough is enough. I mean, at some point in time, I'm not saying that we need to roll back to the 50s, because I don't want to walk into a plane and people are chain smoking and shit on the thing, And I'm not saying we need to wear a 3-piece suit to go flying, but wear a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, or wear some closed-toed shoes. Don't it's ridiculous, I don't get it.
It's gross. It is gross. As soon as I get to the hotel, I immediately shower because I just feel nasty every time.
It's bananas. So for the listening audience, we do not have one specific topic tonight, like a big topic like we normally do. We have a bunch of what we call micro topics. We got a bunch of little stuff that we're going to just kind of throw out. It's just 3 of us tonight. Like I said, Kevin's taking the night off. So we're just going to kind of chill out and throw around some stuff, and we're going to throw it to the wall and see what sticks and what comes
like
out.
The mashed potatoes.
It'll be sticking like the mashed potatoes. So what, while I was sitting on the plane, I was reading a bunch of stuff, and I came across this article, and I was in our society, I guess this makes sense because everything is app based now, and we have so many different sharing platforms for everything, so I guess it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I was shocked because I'd never heard of it. But for several podcasts now, we've talked about EVs, and love them or hate them, they're here, at least for now. I'm sure they'll be here for a while. But we've talked about infrastructure. We've talked about how a lack thereof, certain people not having the ability to charge, whether it be at their house, if they live in a multifamily complex like an apartment or a townhome, if they don't have public chargers near them, what do they do? Well, there's actually a well, for all intents and purposes, a ride sharing app now, or an EV sharing app. There's a couple of them actually, which I was really surprised. The article was about an app that's being used primarily in Europe called CoCharger. And that one's got right now up to 5,500 hosts. And these people go through and they literally rent out their charger. People just,
At
go
their
on
home.
the app and at their home. So people will go on the app and see who's signed up for it, and just like Turo or anything else. And they'll book a, half an hour slot at someone's house, and go and charge at this person's house.
It's probably more consistent than those freestanding ones that are never working.
Well, you bring a very valid point, because a lot of them, as much as we say about Tesla, I will say Tesla's charging network, for what I understand, because I don't own a Tesla, but from just talking to people, is pretty good. It's pretty spot on. They typically always work. But when you get to, the EVgo or I think it's Charge America or whatever, a lot of those charging networks, have a lot of complaints about not working, credit cards not being processed, things not, working. As the people at Walmart, they got chewing gum shoved into the charger, and so they don't work that well. So at least you're here,
or a diesel pickup truck parked in front of it.
So then I thought, well, man, did they have this in the U.S.? And they actually do. There's one that in the States called EV Match, and you can go to Android or Apple and download it.
Are the homeowners charging like whatever their electricity rate is to the quote unquote renter?
Yeah, I'm sure there's an upcharge. I'm sure they're going to be monetized.
You're not doing it.
You're
not doing it out of the kindness of your heart.
Yeah, so I'm sure they're making money off of it. Yeah. So, but again, like anything else, you go buy a gallon of milk at 7-Eleven, and because it's the convenience, it's going to be significantly more than you go to the grocery store. So, but for someone who's stuck or not near a charger, it may be an option,
or doesn't want to stand in line like some of those chargers and some of the things that we've seen.
But then you have to wonder about the safety. You look at all the stories you see about Facebook Marketplace and people showing up at people's houses and they get robbed or whatever else. I mean, EV vehicles are not inexpensive. We know that the vast majority of them are expensive vehicles. So now you're going to just show up to a random stranger's house. The stranger knows that you have some money, at least because you're driving an EV. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about it. There's a whole level of security there.
Or the thought that if you can afford to put one of these chargers that someone cares about, so I'm assuming it's one of the better, 220 volt or, charger, that you're probably not. I mean, realistically, you probably got a little bit of money yourself. Aren't those things relatively expensive to put in?
No, they are. I wonder, and I'm sure they do. I'm just wondering, thinking outside the box, are they vetting these people? I mean, anybody could go up. Anybody could.
Yeah, but are you welcoming this person into your house, or are you just pulling out the 100-foot plug and
putting it on a post?
No, I don't think you're making them. I don't think you're making them tea and crumpets or anything. I think they're going to hang out in their car. But I just, knowing our society the way I know our society, is Billy Bob from the trailer park just going to put in an address that has that in a nice neighborhood, and then wait for someone on his app to show, and then he's going to go over there and just rob them while they're pulling up in someone's house.
I can see that. I mean, that's pretty fucked up, but it's probably happened. But I think overall, I think I would probably do something like this, offer the service. I don't know if I'd go to someone else's home, but
no, wait. But listen, it does fill a void. One of your biggest complaints is that you're in rural America, and that there's no superchargers or no charging network there. It definitely fills the void. Or if you're on a vacation and you go to a charging station and the chargers aren't working, and you only have 30 miles of range, and the next charging station is 50 miles away. Well, maybe there's someone in the area that is on this app that can get you a jump before you get to the next station.
Sure.
What's interesting is where my office is located. Behind us is quite a large office building that sits vacant, but the previous tenant had put in, I don't know, four or six chargers, right? Electric chargers. So the whole place is vacant, but if you walk the parking lot, there's cars there charging. So it's almost like this deep secret. You're like,
yeah, of course.
You don't want to spread the word that they're available, but literally you got people hanging out in a parking lot charging their car in front of a massive vacant office.
And isn't
building.
That part of the allure is that it supposedly doesn't cost that much to charge your vehicle? So is a huge office building, or I don't know how big of an office building, but are they going to even notice? Like if one car, five
empty.
cars? So somebody's paying the electric bill. I mean, that's what.
No, they're probably not going to notice.
I don't know if it's free or if you have to charge with your credit card. I'm assuming that's the way it would be.
Normally they charge when you go to a station, you pay with your credit card, but a lot of companies do as a benefit to their customers. They foot the bill on the charging because they know. I mean, you're there for.
Well, that's when I go knock on the door and get my gas credit.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, they say that the average tank of gas that would cost $70 typically is going to run you somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 to $12 in electricity costs. Is the statistic I've heard. Again, that's just what I've heard on the line. I don't own an EV. I haven't even driven one. So
I've ridden in a lot of Ubers.
Yeah, are they as jerky as I hear?
Not the ones I've been in. No. I mean,
I heard there's a learning curve. A learning curve with the throttle and gap, because again, as soon as you let off the throttle, a lot of them start immediately braking. So.
Yeah, that's true. The regen braking. The biggest thing I've noticed is that your tires really matter, and you can tell somebody who's cheaped out on tires, and it's loud because there's no engine noise. So you can be going, 35, 40 miles an hour down, a street where you would typically in a gas vehicle, it's too slow to hear the engine and too slow to really hear wind noise. So all you have is that tire noise, and that can get really, I hate tire noise. But otherwise, I think, like I said, I don't own one. I'd love a Taycan eventually for my wife, but I think that there's that if you spend properly, I think you can be just fine.
Yeah. You know what I just realized, guys? We didn't even do our wristwatch check. We jumped right into our topic. Didn't even do our wristwatch check.
Actually, we didn't jump into any topic besides your travel nightmare. You were
my
all
travel
hopped
nightmare,
up and ready to go.
Well, that's true because I read the article. I was on the plane, so I guess that's true. Well, traveling just takes it out of me, man. I was in Dallas at 5 a.m. this morning, and then back in Orlando this afternoon, and it's a lot. So
yes, I agree.
What are you guys wearing tonight?
I've fallen back to 2 weeks ago. I'm wearing just the Willard again. I said it at the time, and I'll say it again. This has got a lot of wrist time. Last week, I did wear all week the Zara, which really enjoyed that. But I put the Willard back on Monday, and it's a killer watch. I'm really enjoying it. I love the size. I think it's light. Really, really, really enjoying this one.
You should track down a modern turtle or a SK007 as your daily, which will give you a similar feel and look, but would protect your little investment that you have there.
Yeah, and that's certainly on the list. I'm open. I have the 033, and so that kind of gives me those feels
the Pepsi.
too. Yep. So it is certainly on the list, and I'll add one eventually. I've got a lot of other vintage to add in there, but that'll certainly get added on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, speaking of, I am wearing my Seiko SKX 007 K2.
I love it.
From 2013.
Malaysia's finest.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm right there with you, man. I got one too. We all do.
Yeah. So there's a little photo of it, but
such
it has
a classic look, though.
Yeah, and then I added a waffle strap to it.
Yeah,
give it that vintage feel. So similar to what Casey has there on his Willard. But it's 42 millimeter. They stopped making this a few years ago. So if you can track one down, I would highly recommend it. But this is literally my daily watch. And it holds up so well. I barely have any patina on it. I've been wearing it since 2013. So it's a classic Seiko timepiece and highly recommended.
Absolutely. And for me tonight, I've been wearing this all week long. Anytime I travel, I
Is this
typically
your travel watch?
This is my travel watch. Always my travel watch. I always take my Tag Heuer. It's a great travel watch. It's big, it's bulky, it's heavy. It's
and you're not just
ceramic,
talking about that Apple
sapphire.
mouse in the background.
No, not just that. So, I just like it. It's a, Tag Aqua Racer, chronograph. It's just a great travel watch. It keeps great time. I don't have to really worry about it because it's big and thick and chunky and heavy. It takes a beating. I can knock it on stuff and it never gets banged up. The bezel's ceramic, so with sapphire glass, so I've never had a nick or anything with it. So it's just a great travel watch.
And I love that you even rock the bezel off center.
Yeah, how about that? So I don't worry about it because I just bang it around. It's just a good watch.
Nice. Is that blue?
It is blue. It is blue.
It's hard to see.
If it's not blue, it's orange.
Yeah, it's not blue, it's orange. So, and again, milestone watch. That I got this watch on our 20th wedding anniversary when we were in the islands. So, but I always wear it when we go in places, and it does get some patina on it, and I really don't care.
This just came to my mind, and I'm gonna go on my own little rant. It's probably not as epic as
that's okay.
fried chicken on an airplane, but I listened to another podcast that's relatively new. I won't call it out by name because I don't think that might be rude. But as I was traveling this week, I found one of the two hosts would also be in the city I was in. So I reached out. Actually, I was listening to their podcast, and they said, "Hey, I'm going to be in the city. If you want to get together, you listen to this podcast, reach out to me and, let's have coffee or an adult beverage or something." So I had time on Friday morning before coming home. And I was like, I'm going to do that. Like, I think that would be cool to make a connection. I listen to these guys weekly. Mm-hmm. I'll reach out. So I reach out and sure, we'll get together. And then, I get a message back a couple hours later. Oh, I'm really busy. I got in really late. And it kind of pissed me off. I'm going to tell you why. Because in the next week's episode, this particular host described where they were, and it was like 2 blocks down the street from me. And it really, really frustrating to me because, I think that we try to create community and we try to create, we're just 4 dudes that met at a car rally. I mean, for God's sake, you can't get more, hometown, randomness than that. And I think that we try to create situations where we can meet up with like-minded people. And the frustration just comes from the fact that I feel like I put myself out there where it's kind of weird messaging somebody that you really don't know at all and like, hey, let's grab a drink. And then just to have them be like, fuck off, was kind of frustrating.
Well, I don't know if that was a fuck off, but just the same comfort level you had of reaching out. There's also a comfort level on their end too, as far as, am I doing the right thing? Do I need to be, you know what I mean? So it could be uncomfortable for both parties, but I also get the excitement of, hey, if you're around, let's meet up. But also there's things that happen, and it's not always the easiest thing to do is to say, you know what, dude, I'd love to meet you, but I'm just beat and I may be a couple blocks. So there's always circumstances. And I know we always have these conversations in our head as far as how the conversation we believe has happened. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, I'm just waiting for somebody to even say, hey, can I meet you? Because I listen to your podcast. I don't have that.
James, I mean, you're 100% correct. And I should give some leeway for that. And I guess personally, I do. But it's just frustrating. I don't know. I feel like we're doing something that's fun and similar interest, and that it would be, a good handshake moment and a 15-minute coffee,
Yeah,
I don't know.
And if it's the one I think it is, then I understand where you're coming from, because again, they started at a similar time as we did. It'd be cool to try to connect a little bit and kind of compare shop notes, so to speak, and get ideas. So I understand where you're coming from as far as the excitement of being able to top shop talk shop.
Easy for you to say.
I'm fucking worn out.
I'm not talking
guys,
about chalk.
I
could care less about chalk.
We're not shopping chalk. We're talking shop. So
anyhow, that was that's a little bitch, but I don't know. Maybe it's not important. Maybe
you know
what
it sounds like?
Deal.
It sounds like Matt and Casey are tired from traveling.
It's 100%.
Matt is tired from traveling, 100%. But it's fine. It's fine. You know, all kidding aside, though, even through all of the travel and everything else, I was looking forward to the night. I enjoy podcasting. I got home and Stacy goes, man, you look worn out. She goes, why don't you just you guys do it another night? I'm like, nope,
just blow it off.
We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it live. We're doing it right now.
That's right.
So it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know. For me to blow it off would, I don't know, maybe like a full fucking tattoo on my back or something. But other than
that'd be weird, huh?
That would be
strange. So what do you guys want to talk about next? You all have the agenda.
Well, we were talking about cars. What about new car prices?
Yeah, we could do that because they're a dropping. So,
yeah, but it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
As far as
everything's sluggish. So one thing, we got this graph here. Let me share this real quick.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I still think they're fucking crazy expensive.
They are.
Well, they are. I mean, if you look at
there you go.
Right now, the average price of a new vehicle is $47,401. Which, crazy enough, that's down 2.6% from December of last year, and it's down 3.5% from January of 2023.
Same time in 2023.
Yeah.
And this graph that you're showing there, Matt, that came from Kelley Blue Book.
Okay, so Kelley Blue Book, and I mean, if you look at it here, 2012 average price was $31,000.
And just for the people listening, the graph is looks like it's roughly growing at inflationary rate over the last 10 years, and then of course COVID hits and it jumps exponentially, and then it kind of continues to grow at the same rate as prior to COVID, just with a roughly $10,000 jump in price.
Correct. So again, that you bring a very valid point, Casey. Is this, it's the perfect storm. Is this just the market rectifying itself from overinflated numbers during COVID? It could be.
Well, there's a lot of production going on too. So there's more cars on the lot to sell.
Right.
So during the pandemic, it was impossible. Right after the pandemic, there was still a struggle. And now they've caught up and things are sitting. I mean, we talked about it last week as far as with the EVs sitting for 6 months or whatever
90,
it was.
Yeah, whatever,
Correct.
90 days, 120 days.
One thing that I found interesting on this, when we were talking about this, and James and I were talking about it earlier before we hopped on the call, is that the demand for average priced vehicles is significantly higher than the demand for luxury vehicles. So if we see that the market is down, roughly 3.5% over last year, but that doesn't mean that every manufacturer is down. So some key points was, Toyota was up 3.3% over a year prior. Subaru was up 0.2% over a year prior. Stellantis is, basically Jeep, all your Chrysler group. So Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Fiat. Is there anyone else in there? I can't remember if Stellantis is anyone else, but Stellantis as a group was up 3.3%. Hyundai up 3.9%. Mazda was up 5%. But again, one of the big losers was Tesla. Tesla was down 20%. So when you have one automaker down that far, that's what skews everything and drives all the numbers because it's all relative. So, and to that point, we're talking about, again, Toyota, Subaru, Stellantis, Hyundai, Mazda, not really known for luxury vehicles.
Yeah. So this, to dive a little deeper into the luxury, why we're seeing a drop in that, what do we think that is? The stock market over the last several years has been incredible, right? Yeah. Like we've seen a huge jump, especially this last calendar year. It's been insane. why are we seeing a drop? Are we thinking that people got into cars that were too expensive and then have downgraded? Or do these people who buy the luxury vehicles, are they seeing a slowdown in the economy and not buying this year's model? Like, wonder what the push is for the luxury to be down.
Well, you have overproduction, and then you have high interest rates, right?
Yeah,
so if you think
that's
about
got to
it,
be a big
right
part.
now,
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
manufacturer incentives average $2,700 in January. Remember, last January, everyone was paying over sticker.
True. Yeah.
For any car, right?
True.
So I just believe that it's those two factors alone as far as overproduction. Everyone's caught up, and then the cost to own.
Yeah, that reoccurring payment with 12% interest or whatever ridiculous interest rate people have on their vehicles is probably a huge player. That just like buying a house, when the interest rates goes up, your buying power goes down significantly. So that's probably got a lot to do with it.
Well, and consumer confidence is still relatively low right now. People are still holding on to dollar longer. They're not going out and just buying something because they want to buy something. They're buying it because they need it. I see that in my industry where new home building is still fairly consistent. It's changed a little bit. Instead of being new houses, a lot of it's being multifamily apartments and duplexes, things of that nature, townhomes. But it's still going on. Whereas the residential remodel, people going out and just investing in their homes and changing their kitchens and doing things like that, that piece is off the mark. It's significantly lower than where it would have been, say, maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So
I just saw this stat.
Is still down.
Yeah, I just saw this stat as far as the luxury vehicles go, Matt.
Yeah.
They make up about 20% of the total vehicle sales. And luxury prices dropped by nearly 9.7%.
Wow.
Over the last year.
Wow.
Well, I found this interesting, as and again, we talk about luxury vehicles, and a lot of the newer luxury vehicles are EVs. They're Cadillac, Mercedes, all those lines are going through and pushing in, EVs to upscale. And so the average price of an EV in January of 2024 was $55,353. And that's down 10.8% from January of 2023.
And that's significantly over average that you showed us earlier. That was
correct.
47.
Yeah. So it's up 10 grand over the average.
Wow.
So.
I don't think it has really anything to do with what type of car or anything like that at this point. I think it just has to do with production and the price, the cost of buying a car.
Yeah. I can go with that. I can definitely believe that. I can see that.
And there's a lot there. Now, James, you sent me this other graph. Let me share this real quick.
Which was also from Kelley Blue Book. So
this is from Kelley Blue Book.
Yeah.
And so January, so this is days of supply of an inventory brand. So it looks like Toyota, 36 days of supply, Honda. So yeah, so your lower tier things, just like we talked about, definitely has a lot less inventory. Genesis, Infiniti, Jeep, Buick, Nissan, all upper end, 126 days, 123 days,
with
119 days.
The average being 80 on this graph. Average sales day is 80. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're saying the upper end, Matt, as far as not the car itself, but the days.
No, the number of days. Correct. Not the car itself. The number of days. Right. I found odd on here is that this didn't include any of the pure EV brands. So like Tesla's not on here. Rivian.
Well, they don't have traditional networks either. So,
well, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Tesla,
this is dealer information.
Yeah, how much of that is being held back? Who knows?
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
And also, I'd note the luxury you say is slowing down, but then we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th on this list is Land Rover, 6th is Cadillac, 7th, 8th is Porsche. all below the national average of 80-day.
Well, but yeah, so I can't speak for the other brands, but we all have, intimate knowledge of Porsche, and Porsche does just like Rolex. They don't build enough. You can't just, it's the allocation thing, so they're not jamming their lots full of new vehicles that's going to sit there. You have to go in and be fortunate enough for a dealer to allow you to order one.
Yeah, but you're talking about the sports cars. They have plenty of Macans. Plenty of Macans to choose from.
In Orlando, they do not. Our dealers here are empty. They do not.
Really?
At least not here in Orlando. No. They do have some, and they're all slightly used. They're either leases that came off lease.
I guess I need to drive mine down to Orlando and sell it.
When you go onto if you go onto Porsche of Orlando, whether it be north or south, their website, they may show in transit 15 or 18 like Macan, 2024s. That's about it. I mean, there's not tons of them out there.
Interesting.
So
that's surprising to me. I think they're readily available online.
Yeah. But again, most people buying that level of car doesn't mind. Like I would have no problem, because what you're getting. I'd have no problem going to South Carolina and buying one, or Virginia and buying one. It's a
you don't want to come here. So. We don't have inspections.
I don't have inspections either.
Freedom. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you kidding? Florida's the wild, wild west. You can get anything rated here.
That's right.
So
nice.
Speaking of Florida.
Yes.
That has
a rant coming up.
Segue of
come on, we got Disney, baby. What you want?
You got Florida, man.
Yeah.
But Florida is also well known for crazy cars that may have like a rebuilt salvage title. There's one thing we saw that article about, or kind of we discussed internally about whether or not you would drive or own a salvage or rebuilt vehicle. And I find it interesting just because I watch a lot of YouTube, and these guys are all rebuilding vehicles from, accidents or floods or, whatever the hell else can happen out there. And it's something now that I have a garage space to work on things and know how to do things. I would personally own a vehicle that I rebuilt that may end up with a rebuilt title. I'm not sure I would go to one of the pay here, buy here, pay here lots that have a rebuilt title. But it's certainly something that I would undertake here at home, something that you could take and get on the jig. It's straight and true. You're fixing the suspension. That it can get the whole range of alignment, etc.
Are you referring to, I have this car and the unfortunate accident happens, and you get the totaled car, and then you buy the car back or get it or they give it to you based on your insurance, and then you would put it back together based on you knowing exactly what happened? Or would you buy local, find the history, and then work on it?
I actually have entertained doing like a Copart car.
Okay.
I think that YouTube has ruined a lot of those good buys. I think that the prices are above where they should be because so many YouTube people are doing those sort of projects. But I do think now that I have or the financial ability to get something fixed correctly that I couldn't do myself, like put a car on a frame jig, etc. And I have the ability to do most of the mechanicals that would be required of an accident, meaning suspension rebuilds.
Plus the hat. You got the hat on backwards, so you're solid underneath the hood.
I can't do, body work. I'm terrible at that stuff. I can polish and that sort of thing. I'm okay at that. But like true body work, I can't do that. I can't paint. I'm awful at that. But the mechanical aspect of engine, suspension, that sort of thing, I could totally handle and would actually thoroughly enjoy. But I guess would you, James? Would you own one of these? Or
I would say there's two circumstances. So one, I always get that tinge of excitement when I come across a great deal on Facebook Marketplace until I get to the last line and it says salvage title. And then I've already shared it with 5 people.
Too good to be true.
Too good to be true. Yeah. But as far as the circumstances go for me, I would say I would buy a salvage title for a track car to make a track car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like gut it, fix it, make it as light as possible with the right suspension parts and all that, and drive it.
I guess I've become more comfortable with this over the last 6-7 years that I've been into the motorcycle racing scene, where this is completely normal, and I would say the norm of your track bike being an eBay special.
Well,
I mean, my
I
poor
get
bike
that too.
has been put back together 16 times by myself. I could never imagine buying a new motorcycle or even something almost really street worthy and throwing it down the track. And so maybe my comfort level has come up quite a bit because of that. I don't know. But I think it's interesting.
The second circumstance would be if it were an old car car that was much more simple to work on and to identify. Pre-computer. Well, not pre-computer, but because, back in
like
the 80s,
an OBD1 car, like pre-94.
Yeah, just something that I could just work on. And typically the ones that have underneath the hood could fit a body under there as well, where today it's, you can't even fit anything under there. But I think I'd feel more comfortable, and that's probably more with my skill set than anything else, is being more familiar with the older cars. And I mean, if I have to pull out a laptop to work on a car, I'm out.
Not in it. Matt, where are you at?
So there's only one vehicle that I would consider buying with a salvage title, and that would be a Lotus Elise. And here's the reason why. So the Lotus Elise, because it has a clamshell body, all right, and it's one piece, actually 2 pieces, that you get in the smallest of fender benders in it, and the insurance company immediately totals it out.
Yeah, because it's unibody, correct?
It's unibody, correct.
Yeah.
So these guys go through. There's nothing structurally wrong with the car. It's literally a fiberglass body. So these guys will go through. They'll buy them for whatever the insurance is selling them off for. They order a new body. They put the new body on there, and then it's as good as new. There's a guy here in Florida called Wire Wheel, and that's all he does. Yeah, Florida man, again, Florida. But they're all sold with a salvage title, and they're not inexpensive. I mean, the good thing about a Lotus Elise, if you want a non-salvage title Lotus Elise, you spend $40,000 on it today, and you'll sell it for $40,000 10 years from now, or it may even go up. But you're never going to lose money. A salvage one, no different. You're going to spend $32,000 on a salvage title lease, and 5 years down the road, it don't care how many miles you put on it, it's going to be $32,000.
And I kind of agree with that. And to be completely honest, I've learned, again, a lot about this via YouTube, the guys I watch, but knowing that it's a unibody, that used to be, when that car came out, a death sentence for a vehicle, that if you had an accident in those things, as you said, the insurance companies write it off immediately. But with the advent of nearly everything becoming carbon fiber and fiberglass, there's a lot of people out there that have that skill now, and the price to fix those things has come down significantly. And one of my favorite YouTube guys is Tavarish, and he's had the McLaren,
another
Florida guy, you have to. But he's had his McLaren fixed by a guy that's, I think, in bicycles, but they're using,
to fix the tub.
Yeah,
right?
Carbon fiber frame. So carbon fiber is carbon fiber. And so the guy's able to get in there, clean it up, and make it to what they perceive, at least, is just as strong
if they can. Yeah, because I've seen the same thing on other YouTube channels with the McLaren, and he had to go and find a new tub because
that would be miserable.
Unrepairable. Yeah. But and I think that goes back to the classic car type of thing, right? So if you have this fender bender with your $10,000 classic car, it's going to get totaled, right? That's happening on all these older BMWs, the E30s, the E28s. They get into a minor accident and they're getting totaled.
No doubt. Well, speaking of Tavares, did you see? I mean, on his channel, it was featured on his channel when we were in Farron. Was it last year or the year before when Adam Elsey was up there at the same time that we are, and he got in a wreck with his. Yeah. So last year he wrecked his GT3. A guy that does exactly what Tavares does, but he's over in Europe, ended up winning the auction and buying that car. Flew to Florida, smuggled in a bunch of parts from Europe because it was cheaper to bring them over, and ended up fixing that entire car right there in Tavares' shop.
Yep.
You know, so that goes right back to the whole thing.
He's also the same guy that his next car was the McLaren that he couldn't fix. So win some, lose some, right?
True. Yeah.
So he had
that was the flooded McLaren, right?
Yeah, he had to go. No, it wasn't a flooded McLaren. It was an accident.
That's Tavares.
Oh, he's Tavares. Oh, you're talking about the British
European guy.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's now quite huge.
Yeah.
He's right up there with Tavares, and plus they're friends, right? He did everything.
I think they are. Well, I think they are friends now. I don't know if they were friends before, but through the rebuilding of Adam's car.
And that's exactly what Tavares did. Was he opened up his place to the community, right? And I think that goes back to what Casey was saying. It would be really great, when you offer to get together and then you don't.
And then you actually,
Exactly. Share the knowledge. We need to share the knowledge.
Yeah.
All right, what's next? I got a list of 3 bourbons not to buy if we want to go that route. Or
let's do that because I know we want to touch base on Amelia because it's coming up. Matter of fact, when this airs, it'll be the following weekend, right? Because this is going to air on Wednesday.
Yeah, next week.
So it'll be next weekend. So it'll be just a couple days after this airs, which will be good. So we want to talk about Amelia. We have a new Hublot watch, but that can wait for the next podcast. That can wait. No big deal. So go over your bourbons, Casey, and then we'll do the Amelia, and we'll be done.
I feel like I've bitched a lot on this podcast, but
you have.
I think.
Listen, so today, here, full transparency. I'm going to tell this to Kevin. Tonight's title is going to be Old Men Rambling. I'm going to, that'll be our old men rambling. So go ahead and ramble on, Casey.
So being so into bourbon, I get asked a lot of questions. Oh, what bourbon should I buy? Should I buy this bourbon? Or what does this bourbon taste like? Or should I chase this bourbon? And, I think there's a lot of FOMO in bourbon over the last couple of years, really since COVID, where, everybody stayed home and did nothing but drink bourbon. Which I was part of.
And pick up a new hobby.
Yeah, and it's easy to sit and do nothing and drink. But there's a lot of FOMO in bourbon, and especially here in Virginia, maybe more so than others, because I know you can get these bottles elsewhere, but you certainly will never see them on the shelves here. But, bourbon's great. There's a lot of different flavors in it. It's fun to talk to your buddies with about what you're drinking or what you've had or where you're going in your bourbon journey. But I do think it's important to not get stuck chasing a particular bottle of bourbon. There's so many bourbons. They're so good. You do not need to chase solely one bottle of bourbon. And I'll tell you who's done this. Specifically, I think it's all the fault of Buffalo Trace Distillery. And actually, all 3 of the bourbons that I'll name today are all Buffalo Trace bourbons, admittedly. Buffalo Trace has done more to bourbon in the last couple of years than what's been done in the bourbon market for the last 2 decades. They've created...
Good and bad? Good and bad, right?
Yes. I mean, they produce fantastic bourbons. Don't get me wrong. I love the vast majority of the things they put out. But they've also created this ridiculous chasing called, we call them taters. Mm-hmm. But these people who chase particular bottles of bourbon for nothing other than the fact that it has become hard to get. And it's super annoying. For instance, I'll use this as my first one. The standard bottle of Buffalo Trace. This is a fine bottle of bourbon. It's very good. I'm going to tell you exactly what mash bill it is, but it is the mash bill number 1 from Buffalo Trace, which is a low rye. We don't know exactly what it is, but it's somewhere probably around 85 or to 90% corn. But it is a good bottle of bourbon. It costs generally about $30. But here in Virginia, you cannot find this. you will get in fights going after this bottle of bourbon. People sell this on the secondary market for $100+. It's fucking Buffalo Trace.
Casey, so you said it's $30. What was that like, say, 5 or 6 years ago? Was it still 30? The same?
$30.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of Buffalo Trace. Again, out of the four of us, I'm not the big drinker, but I remember listening to Matt Farah's podcast, and Johnny Lieberman's on there a lot. And Johnny's a big bourbon guy. And I remember like 6 years ago, him bringing in a bottle of Buffalo Trace and saying how affordable it was and everything.
Mm-hmm,
that was the first time I'd ever even heard of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, same with Eagle Rare.
Absolutely. That's not on my list because I think that's a little bit better value. You still can't find that here. Same mash bill as this. But Buffalo Trace is what I'll say is their everyday drinker. Their bottom shelf is Benchmark, which has also been flying off the shelves for some freaking reason, and you can't find here anymore.
It's like
either.
a secret. It's the secret Buffalo Trace.
Yes, absolutely. And it's silly. There are so many other bottles in this same $30 price range that are just as good that you can find everywhere. The second one that people go nuts over, this bottle will also cost you secondarily probably $130-ish, $150. You should never spend a dime over the ASP, which is literally I think $35, which is Weller's Special Reserve. Again, a good bourbon. It's fine. It's their entry level weeded mash bill. It's fine. It's not special. It says special, but it ain't special. It is just a
good marketing.
Basic entry level of the Weller line. It sells so well because of that Weller name, right? It's got all the historic context and people chase it and lust after it. It's fine. But don't go nuts over it. Certainly don't spend $100. If you can get one from a buddy or you see one on your local liquor store for $50, fine. Maybe it's worth $50. But do not spend $80, $100, $150 on that bottle.
It's a basic bitch.
It absolutely is. The last one that I will call out specifically is Elmer T. Lee. I don't have a bottle of this currently because, well, two reasons. One, currently it goes for 10 times its MSRP.
Really?
MSRP is roughly $30 to $35. Secondary bottle is $300.
Hard pass.
$300. This is a bottle that in college, which would have been, several years ago, granted, I bought at CVS back in Kentucky for, $25, $30 and poured gallons of Coke into. Okay. This is not a bourbon that should be worshipped. It's not age stated. It's not special or different. It is simply mash bill number 2, which is their high rye mash bill that you can find in several other products. You can go on
and marketing 101.
But it's true. It's limited supply. For whatever reason, they put this in limited supply. You don't see it often, but it sure as hell is not worth $300. It's just not. You're going to be so disappointed if you spend anything over $50 for this and pour it into your glass. You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, but maybe it's just the uneducated because I mean,
it absolutely is.
Look at me. Like I know if I didn't know
Instagram
you
Reels
guys
and TikTok.
Yeah, if I didn't know you guys, I know nothing about bourbon, right? So if I'm going through and I'm looking at TikTok or I'm looking at, oh my God, this is $300, that's top shelf stuff, and I get it. And because I have the palate of a 2-year-old, I don't know what I'm tasting.
Well,
it's what I think it's supposed to be.
Those are not mashed potatoes.
It is not mashed potatoes and gravy on the back of a plane. No.
What bourbon has finally started to figure out is like Scotch. Okay. People go into a liquor store and will ask the owner, especially in the local joints, they'll ask the owner, sir, ma'am, I need to spend $500. Give me a bottle that's $500 for my boss for Christmas. Or I'm having a party at my house. I want to have a nice bourbon or Scotch available. I need to spend $250. So historically, bourbon has been underpriced. It's been on the lower end of the price scale in the grand scheme of whiskey, right? And these distillers are finally starting to figure out, certainly the store owners have figured out, that people, regardless of what that price will be, there will always be someone there to purchase it. So when you go into these stores and you see a Buffalo Trace and they've got $85 on it, they know somebody's going to come in and be like, oh my God, I haven't seen that in wherever the hell I'm from or whatever. I need that.
Mm-hmm.
When there's Old Forester 100 over here that is, I say, much better, or an Evan Williams bottled in bond, for God's sakes, for $17 is sitting over there. It's
101. Don't forget the 101.
Turkey 101, which has gone up in price over the last year, but still is a hell of a value at $35. It is the uneducated, like you said, Matt, but it is a lot of FOMO, and it is fantastic, James, marketing by Buffalo Trace.
Sure.
I think a lot of it has to do with making sure you have the right one to be drinking so that you're part of the group, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I think that's a lot.
You're not embarrassed in front of your friends, or even if you're a casual drinker. I get that. I mean, marketing works, right? So especially now that really our economy is a limited quantity economy, right? Limited edition. Everything's limited edition. So
the Rolex world. I mean, Rolex has been doing it forever. I mean,
Rolex, Porsche, all of that.
Puts out,
absolutely.
Low supply.
Now take a look.
To artificially.
I mean, we've talked about this 100 times, right? You know, look at the Mega Swatch, right? You know, you got a $25 watch selling for $250 or above if you can't.
That's why I don't own one yet, because I refuse to pay until I walk into a Swatch store and pay $325 for one, which is what they're supposed to be. You know, I'm not paying, freaking no.
And I think Casey brings up a great point as far as when you say uneducated, it's just people that aren't into it, buying it for somebody else, right? So here's a stat for you. 50% of buyers of vinyl records, 50% don't own a record player. What does that mean? That's your mom and dad going in and buying an album for my kid. That's you buying an album for a gift. So literally 50% of people buy an album. So when you walk into any record store and it's $50 just because they only made 1,000 of them, everyone's it must be a good album. I'm grabbing it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe it.
It's a great point.
I don't own a record player, and so Stacy and I were even at the, we have a big flea market.
I don't either.
Close to here. Sure you don't. I can see behind you. So big flea market.
There's two behind me.
Walk in there, ton of vinyl, and they're all $35 to $50. And I'm like, I don't understand this.
But if you do, Matt, if we pull out that calculator, right? So back in the day, they were $8. Well, you multiply that by inflation, it comes out to $35 to $40.
Yeah.
But some of this stuff, and I'll say records, bourbon, I don't feel this way necessarily, but it does. There is a relation there. When I go buy a record and I spend time flipping the record, picking it up, looking at it, reading the back cover, there's an experience and a connection that you have, just like we used to do. We used to, I spent so much time at Best Buy looking at CDs and holding 15 of them in my hand before I had to put 14
had to
of them
whittle
back.
it down.
Yeah, because I only
then you get home, you open the jewel case, and you pull out the thing, and you read all the stuff inside. Yeah,
and so
you open a jewel case and it snaps.
Exactly.
That's a habit. Yeah, but it's there's such a connection, and so sometimes I feel that with vinyl that I almost don't mind that it cost me $50, or I wish it didn't, but I don't mind it because that's creating a whole experience, and I'm going to put the record on. I'm going to play it all the way through.
You have to slow down.
Yes.
You literally have to slow down.
Yes. And I really enjoy that. And the wife and I listen to vinyl a lot while we cook dinner. And it is part of I think slowing down, I think that's a great term, even though that's a very boomer term. And man, am I fucking getting old. But like the whole experience of slowing down, cooking your dinner all the way through from scratch, putting a record on, having to listen to it all the way through, flipping it, listening to the B-side, and going through that process, I think is really creating that scenario or that memory of a time and a place and a moment that very few things currently can provide for you.
But you're certainly having an experience, right? Because you're making choices, right?
A very explicit
choice.
Skip.
Right. And you can't just hit, because I remember when we are rambling tonight, but I remember when Spotify came out, I literally could not listen to a single song all the way through because every song was available to me.
Yep.
Sure.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So skip. Nope. I've lost interest. Skip.
Yep.
So I miss the days of, again, not necessarily vinyl, because I mean, I had a record player when I was a kid, but
8-tracks.
I remember going from,
Matt.
Cassettes into, I did have 8-tracks, but really primarily cassettes, and then going into CDs and being able to listen to the entire thing. I knew every song through the album, everything that was coming next. And now when you're on it, Pandora or whatever you are, or even Apple Music, and you ask to listen to an artist, if you're not specific and say, I want to listen to this album, you just get a mixture of songs, and I miss being able to hear every song on a specific album.
And
nothing makes me happier than my daughter being able to physically own these albums, right? That she enjoys it and we can enjoy this together. That makes me happy. That's a shared experience that is much different than sending me a link to a playlist on Spotify or even to an album. Like, check this out. Like, there was, I think Casey may alluded to this. It was a hunt to find these albums. You literally had to choose. You had your 15 and you had to whittle it down. You were making important decisions, very conscious as far as what was important to you. And then you brought that home, opened it, read all the liner notes as you listened, and you didn't just turn it off and go to the next one. You flipped it back over to side A and you listened to it again. You started memorizing the lyrics, all of that stuff. That's an experience that you don't get with zeros and ones.
Yeah.
You know what experience you don't get? Go ahead, Casey.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think
no, you didn't interrupt. Go ahead.
We see, and this is kind of a weird analogy maybe, but we see a lot of this similar characteristics in Taylor Swift fans, if we can bring up her, where these fans go to her concerts and know every single freaking song word by word, right? That's how I used to be with the albums or CDs that I would purchase, because as you said, James, you had to listen all the way through. So I remember my very first 2 CDs, and this would have been early 90s, was Dave Matthews, Under the Table and Dreaming, the Hootie and the Blowfish album, and what was the third one? Oh, Live. I think it was called Copper.
Copper. It was Copper.
Yeah.
It was Throwing Copper.
Throwing Copper. Thank you.
Throwing Copper.
What a weird drawing on the front. But anyway, those 3 albums, I knew frontwards and backwards. And it's because it's all I had to listen to, number one, because that's my first CDs. But it was because it was such an experience and such a cost for me to go and buy 3 CDs. Holy shit. Because like they're like $12, $14.
How many lawns did you have to mow?
Exactly right.
Right? To get those CDs.
Yeah.
Did you guys not do what I did? I had BMG, man. I got 15 CDs for a penny.
No, I did not.
Don't you remember that 15? Then of course you had 15 more that you paid like $21 for.
Yeah. It was Columbia House.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you didn't mail it back, you wound up getting this rando album that you never wanted to get.
Exactly. That's how I ended up getting the soundtrack to the Howard Stern movie. I did. I got the soundtrack to the Howard Stern movie, but through Columbia House.
Wow. Well, I think we hit every topic you could cover.
Yeah, well, we do need to go over Amelia real quick. I mean, just a couple of things because it is going to be this weekend when this thing comes out. So
next, okay,
yeah, because when this airs, so it'll be a couple of days after. Because if we do it next week, it'll be already over.
I'm really jealous I don't get to go. I really, really want to go, and it's so high on my list of places to or events to participate.
Why aren't you?
Why aren't you going? Last show that I lost my help and I'm fucking drowning in work. I am drowning.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know.
No, I get it.
It's
even myself, man. It's like, even with this being, so for those listening, Amelia Island, it's in North Florida, right outside of Jacksonville, north of Jacksonville.
First exit.
Yep, right over the Georgia-Florida line. So great event. It's just on par with Pebble Beach. It's the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, and it's an entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of a multitude of different events. Friday is
Thursday,
typically,
actually.
Oh, does it start Thursday? Okay, so Thursday.
Yeah.
So I usually go up there Friday and Saturday. Usually come home Saturday night or Sunday. This year, I'm not going to make it to Works Reunion, which is on Friday for the big Porsche event. I got too much going on at work, so I'm going to roll up Saturday morning and just catch the Cars and Caffeine and Radwood. But I got a lot going on myself this year.
I think it's Cars and Community, isn't it?
Is it Cars and Community?
Yeah, Cars and Community. Yeah, something like that.
Something like
that. I don't know.
So I know they do that and Radwood together. So.
Yeah, I go every year. It's always fun. So, I go with Dave. He's bringing a couple cars from Sonderworks this year. And actually, he's calling me right now. But
tell him we're on a podcast.
Yeah. So, yeah, we always have a good time because he shows these cars at really all the events there. And then we hit the auctions and there's so much to do. It's a fun time. Actually, I can share some pictures from last year.
Yeah, that'd be great. Throw them up.
Yeah.
For those watching on YouTube, those listening, go to YouTube and you'll see the photos.
I'm sure they're Kevin's or James. Oh, yeah, here you
go. Look at that.
We're missing you, Casey.
Mm-hmm. It's because I'm a loser.
This is not the picture I remember. Wasn't there a picture where someone's flicking off the camera?
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is Works Reunion. Just a blast. It's really a full day. So it's almost a full event day on its own. You can make it that, but Florida's gorgeous, of course, during this time of year.
Mm-hmm. For those that don't know, Works Reunion is a Porsche event put on by the PCA, and it's just an all Porsche event, every make, every model, segregated by make and by model. So,
yeah, and probably one of the few events that PCA does well, for what I've heard. None of the ones I've been to have been worth a shit, but
this is the only PCA event I've ever been to.
Yeah, this is a car that Sonderworks built for Jeff Gordon, so pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I love.
Guess whose shoes those are?
Oh yeah, right? Magnus Walker.
Magnus.
Why does he always look so dirty?
That's his shtick.
Magnus. Well, here's where Magnus has done it right. Everyone in the car scene knows who Magnus is, but I guarantee you cut the hair, you shave the beard, you take the hat off, and no one would even know who he was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever he's ready to hang up the hat and call it a day, he can do that and have some anonymity.
Probably's got a funk to him. He looks like he's got a funk.
Smells like patchouli.
Yeah. And while we're looking at all these fantastic pictures, that's what Jeff Gordon's car.
Yeah.
My car, a little update. The ECU.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
ECU's communicating. So we are getting closer. So that's good news.
That is great news.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right, folks. James, you have anything else, or was that it?
I think that's good. I think everyone gets the general gist. It's worth the trip if you can make it. People on the East Coast, it's definitely closer than hitting Monterey, and it's got a similar vibe.
And it's right on the water. It's beautiful up there. It's not super hot. It's in the spring. It's good weather in Florida. Last year it rained, which was not great. Works didn't on Friday didn't rain, but Cars and Community and Radwood got pretty
Sunday
wet.
as well.
Yeah.
And
So
But it just like in Florida, right? It rains and then it clears up, and then you come out from under your tent and you
funny
walk
story
around.
though. So there's literally, when you're there, I didn't have an umbrella with me. All right. So I'm there, I'm walking around, I'd spent the night. I didn't want to go back to Orlando yet. So I'm walking around. It's a big open field, but there's no cover anywhere other than the vendor. Few vendors have booths. There's no cover, and it just started pissing rain. I had no umbrella. So literally the only way to catch cover was to go over to the portalets. They had a whole series of portalets. These people in the portalets trying to get out of the rain for a few minutes or whatever, and then they hop back out between the rain bands. So my plans this year, I'm going to try to grow up. Just take the truck and go up Saturday and
grow
catch
up or
everything.
go up.
Go up, maneuver up, drive up. So
cool.
Drive north.
So hopefully you see some people there. It's a great time, especially as you were saying, Casey, you're a big YouTuber, right? I'm watching YouTube a lot. All the car guys from YouTube are there, including a lot of the Discovery or Motor Trend guys, the Wayne Carinis and all of that. They're there and accessible, which is really nice. So it's a pretty low key event, and there's a lot for everyone to do. The one thing I will say that I've been disappointed with is since Haggerty took it over, everything costs money. So there was a point where everything was free except for Sunday. Now everything costs money. So you would have all these families showing up, and you get these young kids with their eyes
just
really
fall
big.
In love. Yeah.
Just all of a sudden they're car kids and they turn into car adults, right? Now you have to have mom and dad pony up $20 to get just one person in.
It's a business.
So,
I wonder, and this is really probably, I don't know, maybe it's stupid, but I wonder if they could start something where you pay, I don't know, $5 extra, get a kid in, like for a family that's. I
don't think the kids are. I think the kids are free. I don't think they charge for the kids.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's important to get them excited about the stuff and have them be around it. And, the first time you hear a raw Porsche start up is like a memorable moment, Yep.
Yeah.
Well, no promises, but I'll try to film some content for our channel while I'm up there.
Oh, don't get me excited.
Exactly. So, well, for guys, for hanging out, thank you very much. Thanks for listening to three dudes ramble for an hour and 12 minutes. Check us out, our website, whiskey-watches-the-wheels.com. Shoot us an email if you got any suggestions. Contact at Whiskey Watches the Wheels. Everything's Whiskey Watches the Wheels. YouTube, website,
Instagram,
Apple Music, Instagram. Everything's just Whiskey Watches and Wheels. So check us out, and you guys have a wonderful evening. All right.
Peace.
Catch you guys later. Peace out.